What's going on, homies? Hope you're well. So I just wanted to have a discussion today about the inability to focus. I've talked to a lot of people recently that have been telling me just that they've been having a difficult time really being able to concentrate on like a single task, or just not being able to start something and finish it, or just like not having the motivation because they never seem to be able to get stuff done. So I wanted to have a brief conversation with you guys about that, man, and just talk about some aspects of it that we might not always take into account when we have that conversation, because I think the default answer nowadays can be that, like, oh, well, this person doesn't have the ability to focus, therefore they must have ADHD, therefore they must need medication. And I think that the answer in reality is probably a lot more complex than that. I think that ADHD is something that definitely exists. It's a possibility, and we, as of now, man, we know that there's a lot of factors that come into ADHD. It's a complex diagnosis that can have has to do with interactions between your environment, biological factors going on in your head and everything. And I know that there are some people out there that are deniers of it. Says like, oh, this person just sucks and they can't focus because they don't want to, or they're not trying hard enough. And that's not how it works. It's a lot more complicated than that. But what I do want to speak on is how things that we put into our body, or things that we do to ourselves, or situations that we place ourselves in, can mimic ADHD type symptoms. I think that there's a lot of people I run into, man, that don't take into account the significance of things like diet, exercise, and just overall nutrition and wellness, as well as the environment that they're in when they're trying to do things, when they need to do a focused activity. When we talk, I've met with people that, like, we'll take Joey Bag of Donuts over here, right? And he comes in and he's saying that, like, I don't know if I need to get on medication. I think I'm dealing with ADHD because I can't focus. I got no motivation. I can't concentrate. I can't listen to people when they're talking. So, okay, so then my next question with them is maybe something like, all right, so tell me just about your like health and stuff, man. What are some habits that you have? And when they start talking, we find out that Johnny Bag of Donuts here drinks about 4 Red Bulls a day. He's not eating properly. His diet consists of like Skittles and like 3 Hershey bars, and he never exercises. He's living an extremely sedentary lifestyle. He doesn't work, and then he's always got like music, movies, or YouTube videos playing in the background. Oh, excuse me. And he's always got music, movies, or YouTube videos or something playing in the background when he's trying to work on an activity. Now, there we have a problem. That it may not necessarily be that old Johnny Bago over here. It may not necessarily be that old Johnny Bago has ADHD. It could be that Mr. Bag of Donuts doesn't have his shit together. In order to put it in a very clinical way. And it's not even to be mean, but there's other aspects we have to look at. If Mr. Bag of Donuts here decided to cut out those Red Bulls, maybe started drinking some like water and like tea, or just something that's a lot less caffeinated, and drinking those with a lot less regularity. If he was having a nutritional breakfast with like a balanced food group where you got your fruits, your vegetables, carbs, proteins, and everything in the correct balance. If Mr. Bag of Donuts was taking walks, or like lifting weights, or like running for 30 minutes to an hour a day, things like that. If Mr. Bag of Donuts turned off some of his electronic devices while he was attempting to work and be productive, he might have a very different outcome when he's attempting to get things done than he has right at this moment. It may not be that Mr. Bag of Donuts here has like ADHD, he's got a chemical imbalance and we need to throw Adderall at him. There could be a lot of other things going on too, and I think that's important to take into account, like not just writing ourselves off as like having a mental illness, but maybe there are things that we're doing that make things difficult, and Something else that I tell people is that the environment that you're in, like the workspace that you're in, also has a great deal to do with how productive you're going to be. Like let's say that you were somebody who's like you're a gamer, right? So let's say that you have your computer desk and your laptop or your setup wherever you play, and like whenever you're there, like you're hardcore gaming, man. Like you're either browsing the internet or like you're jumping on playing some Street Fighter ranked. You're super into it. Like that's the space where you play games. Now let's say that the same person also is like in university or something like that, and they're trying to do their homework, and this is also the space where they're trying to get their homework done. That's probably not the best idea, because if this space is the area where you're used to like gaming, relaxing, having recreational activity, browsing the internet, stuff like that, if you now try to make this space to the place where you do hardcore work or studying or things like that, you're going to have a hell of a time with it, because that's not what your brain associates with that. Like this isn't where we work. This is where we play. We don't we don't work there. And that's what your brain's doing, like our brain makes associations and connections between stuff. I don't know if you guys have this experience, but let's take something like music, for example, right? Where like throughout different points in our life, maybe we heard a certain song at a certain place, or maybe we listened to a song when something was going on in the background, and or something like significant was going on to us at the time, and we can begin to associate that song with that moment or that specific person. Like the song clearly has nothing to do with them, like it's not about them, but we can take music or like those sort of things, and those associations can really get like linked up in our head. So now whenever we hear this song or we get into this situation, we immediately think of this happening, or we think of this person. And I believe that it works the same way with other aspects as well. I think that when you are used to being in a certain location, and your activity that you're engaging in, you have a habitual activity that you do in this specific space, your brain associates it with that. So it's going to be very hard to try to bring in something new into that territory and start that up as your new habit. I think that it pays off more if you can find another workspace, like take your laptop and like, okay, I'm going to the library, I'm going to upstairs, like I'm going to a different corner of the house, and like this is going to be the place where I work, and attempting to remove all distractions, like turning off your devices or not bringing them with you, and just allowing yourself all of the convenience necessary to make this successful. I think that sometimes we're too quick to try to rely on willpower. We try to willpower our way through everything. We're like, you gotta want it bad enough. Like that's kind of how we look at stuff, right? We're like, if you want it bad enough, you'll do it and you'll freaking get it. And like, there's nothing wrong with willpower, right? Like, I'm not saying that willpower is a bad thing, but I think willpower fluctuates. Some days you're feeling more motivated than others, and there are habits that we want to build, that we want to do them regardless of how motivated we're necessarily feeling in that moment. So I think that this is where creating comfort and ease and convenience into like your good habits is significant, because you want to make those good things as easy to do, or easier to do, even better. You want to make those easier to do than the negative habits are. And that starts with kind of creating, like molding your environment, instead of like having your environment dictate how you're going to act, how you become the master of your domain in that sense. Like you change the things around you to facilitate a better and more effective response from yourself. And that's pretty much what I want to talk about, guys. I just want to say that, like, you guys, like, nobody's, like, it's not that ADHD doesn't exist. Not saying that it's bad if you have it. I think that ADHD is very prominent for a lot of different reasons today, and I think that medication can be extremely useful tool in like getting that under control. But before you go out and like immediately think that I have to go get on pills or something like that, maybe there's other steps that you can take before that. Checking on your diet, checking on your nutrition, checking on like what you're doing to facilitate concentration and focus in your environment might be good first place to look, rather than immediately jumping to that. So with that being said, be well out here, guys. I appreciate you listening to me, and I'll talk to you in the next one.